Welcome back to the park. If you're new, so far on this channel, pigeons have started a world war over a French fry, and an entire economy collapsed because of one loaf of bread. So by our standards, today is a feel-good episode. Nobody starts a war. Nobody goes bankrupt. We're just going to take the single most beautiful thing in the park and, very politely, as a team, with love in our hearts, destroy it completely. Let me show you what we're working with. The bird bath. To you, it's a chipped concrete bowl with some water in it. To a bird, it is paradise. It is a spa. It is a nightclub. It is the office water cooler, the local pub, and the fountain of youth, all in one slightly green puddle. Birds fly in from across the park to drink here, bathe here, catch up on gossip here, and stand motionless in the middle of it for 45 minutes while a line forms behind them and dies of old age. It is the crown jewel of the park. And here's the magic word. It belongs to everyone. Nobody owns it. Nobody pays for it. Economists have a name for a resource like this. Open to all, owned by none. They call it a commons. Remember that word. We're about to watch it die. Because for a while, it's perfect. The birds take turns. Everyone gets a sip, a splash, a little dignity, and they move along. The water stays high, the water stays clean, and the whole system hums along flawlessly, which, if you've seen literally one other video on this channel, you know is the exact sound the universe makes right before it kicks you down a flight of stairs. Because here's the problem hiding inside that beautiful word everyone. A thing that belongs to everyone belongs to no one, and a thing that belongs to no one has nobody, not one single soul, whose job it is to protect it. Enter Greg. Greg is a pigeon. I need you to understand that Greg is not the villain of this story, even though Greg is about to end civilization, because Greg does it while being the most reasonable guy you've ever met. Greg waddles up to the bath one morning and has a thought. A small, innocent, deeply destructive thought. He thinks, you know what? Big day. I'm going to take a long one today. Full soak. Maybe a couple laps. I've earned this. And inside Greg's little walnut of a brain, a tiny, monstrous piece of math just clicked into place. Watch it. If Greg takes extra water, Greg gets 100% of the good stuff. The long bath, the clean feathers, the smug glow of a man at peace. That's all his. But the cost, the dropped water level, the bit of grime, the slightly worse bath for the next guy, that cost gets split across the entire park. Hundreds of birds. So Greg's personal share of the damage is basically zero. A crumb of a crumb of a crumb. So the math whispers to Greg, take more. The fun is yours. The bill is everybody's. You'd be an idiot not to. Now, if it were just Greg, we'd be fine. One greedy pigeon doesn't drain a bird bath. But here's the horror. Greg isn't special. Greg isn't even creative. Every bird in that park is running the identical calculation. Pete runs it, Gary runs it, everyone runs it. Each one looks at that bath and thinks the same calm, rational, completely understandable thought. The benefit is mine, the cost is everyone's, so I should grab as much as I can, right now, before that guy does. And that, my friends, is the tragedy of the commons. It's one of the biggest ideas in all of economics, and it's brutally simple. When a resource is shared by everyone, but owned by no one, every individual has a personal incentive to overuse it. And if everyone follows that incentive, the resource gets destroyed and everybody loses. A whole flock of perfectly rational birds, each making a perfectly sensible choice, calmly marching off a cliff in an orderly line. And it happens fast. By noon, the bath is a humanitarian crisis. The line is 40 birds deep. Greg has been in there for an hour and has brought snacks. A sparrow is doing the backstroke. Somebody's cousin has, and I cannot stress this enough, moved in. Gary, sensing money the way a shark senses a nosebleed, is now bottling bathwater in old acorn caps and selling it back to the birds it used to be free for, which is the single most Gary thing that has ever occurred. There's a pigeon charging a convenience fee to hold your spot. The line has its own line, and the water is dropping like a stone. And here's the gut punch. Not one bird feels responsible, because not one bird is responsible. That's the whole disease. Ask any of them, hey, aren't you a little worried the bath's running dry? And they all give the same answer, word for word. Well, if I don't take it, somebody else will, so I might as well get mine. And the truly evil part? They're right. They are completely, mathematically right. Because if Noble Greg decides to use less, that saved water doesn't get protected. It just slides down the gullet of the next guy in line. So Greg's heroic sacrifice earns him exactly one thing: a worse bath and a sense of moral superiority. And you cannot drink moral superiority. Believe me, birds have tried. This little gremlin has a name. Economists call it the free rider problem, the evil twin of the commons. A free rider is somebody who happily slurps up a shared resource while contributing absolutely nothing to keeping it alive. And the agony is that being a free rider is the smart play. Why would you be the one chump who uses less and skims the algae while everyone else keeps mooching? So everybody chooses to be the free rider. Nobody volunteers to be the chump, and the bath spirals straight down the drain, literally. Dear, there's a little whirlpool now. It's very sad. And if this is setting off alarm bells from a previous episode, gold star, you've been paying attention. This is the prisoner's dilemma in a fake mustache. Same trap, bigger party. Everyone would be better off if they all cooperated and used the bath gently. But no single bird can afford to cooperate alone because they can't trust anybody else to do the same. So they all defect, they all overuse, and the one thing they all depend on gets demolished by the exact birds who needed it the most. Gorgeous. A truly gorgeous catastrophe. And here's where the back of your neck should start to itch, because this is not a bird problem. This is the whole human world, top to bottom, the ocean full of fish that everyone catches and nobody owns. Commons. Every boat thinks, if I don't take it, the next boat will, so everybody overfishes. The fish vanish, and every fisherman is somehow stunned, despite personally attending the entire extinction. Traffic, where every driver thinks, I'll just squeeze in here real quick, and 10,000 tiny squeezes become a 4-mile parking lot that nobody wanted and everybody built. Commons. Antibiotics, where everyone grabs the easy fix today and the shared bill is that the bacteria level up and the medicine stops working for the whole species. Commons. The entire atmosphere of the planet we are currently standing on. That, friends, is the big one. That's the boss-level bird bath. And we are all in there doing a leisurely backstroke. But the purest example of the tragedy of the commons known to humankind is, obviously, the office break room fridge, shared by all, owned by none, cleaned by no one, where everybody takes and nobody scrubs, until one fateful Thursday, a presence awakens inside a forgotten Tupperware and the entire floor has to be evacuated by professionals. That is the commons. Greg has a fridge. Greg's fridge has been declared a historical site. It's all connected. So, how do you fix it? How do you stop a crowd of reasonable individuals from lovingly, one polite, selfish choice at a time, destroying the thing they all adore? And the birds try. Bless them, they try. Fix number 1, just ask everyone to be nice. The flock holds a meeting. An earnest sparrow gives a genuinely beautiful speech about sharing and community and the bath we wish to see in the world. There's not a dry eye in the park. Everyone applauds, everyone agrees, and then everyone waddles straight back to the bath and does precisely what they were doing before. Because, altogether now, if I'm the only one who holds back, I'm just the chump. Moralizing does not move the math. You cannot give a speech inspiring enough to beat an incentive. It was a lovely speech. The bath kept draining. Fix number 2, privatize it. One bird owns the whole thing. And before the sentence is even finished, a wing shoots up. It's Gary. Of course it's Gary. Gary throws a little fence around the bath, hammers in a sign that reads, Gary's Spa, members only, and starts charging admission in crumbs. And here's the part that makes everyone absolutely livid. It works. Because now that Gary owns the bath, the cost of wrecking it lands squarely on Gary. If that water runs dry, Gary loses his entire business. So suddenly, there is exactly one bird in the whole park with a powerful, selfish, deeply personal reason to keep the bath clean and full. And it's the owner. Gary rations the water. Gary skims the algae. Gary throws Greg out at the 20-minute mark. And the bath recovers. It's a miracle, an infuriating miracle, because now you have to pay Gary for water that used to be free. There's a loyalty punch card, and the 10th bath is free in the way that things are never actually free. Private ownership genuinely solved the tragedy by handing the entire commons to one smug pigeon in a crown. Every solution has a price tag, always. Fix number 3, call in a government. Somebody with the muscle to make rules and force everyone to obey them. In this park, that somebody is Timmy, the 6-year-old, the apex predator, the closest thing this ecosystem has to a functioning state. Timmy could stand by the bath and enforce a hard 2 minutes each rule, and this works too because a referee who punishes overuse rewrites everyone's math. Now, the cost of being greedy isn't shared and far away. It's personal and immediate, and roughly the shape of a giant toddler hand. But it's clumsy. The referee has to actually watch. The referee has to somehow know the correct amount of water, which the referee does not. And the referee is, let us never forget, a small child who could at any moment lose interest entirely and wander off to eat a rock. Government can absolutely fix the commons. It can also be slow, blunt, and administered by someone who is currently upside down. So that's our menu, and every dish is a little gross. Beg everyone to be nice, useless. Hand it to one owner, works, but now one guy owns the water. Bring in an enforcer, works, but it's clumsy and the enforcer is a baby. Is that it? Is the commons just doomed? Are we all destined to backstroke gently into the apocalypse, one perfectly reasonable selfish decision at a time? And here's my favorite part of the whole episode, because the answer is no. And we know it's no because of a woman named Eleanor Ostrom, who won the actual Nobel Prize in economics for pointing out something everybody else had walked right past. Real communities, all over the real world, have been quietly beating the tragedy of the commons for centuries. No single owner, no government, breathing down their necks. They just worked it out. Together, like adults. It was very embarrassing for the economists who'd spent decades insisting it was impossible. Fishing villages that set their own catch limits and actually honor them. Mountain towns sharing the same grazing fields under rules older than the country they're in. Regular people managing a shared resource by making their own agreements, watching each other, and, this is the crucial bit, being fully allowed to give Greg a hard time when Greg gets greedy. Because that's the secret ingredient, not kindness, not law, accountability. The flock can save that bird bath, but only if they nail 3 things. 1, real rules, not warm, fuzzy vibes about sharing. Actual limits everybody signs off on. 2 minutes each. Nobody bottles the water, Gary. 2, they watch. They keep eyes on the bath and on each other, so sneaking gets spotted. And 3, the one everybody skips. They're allowed to call out the cheaters. When Greg goes in for a sneaky third soak, somebody gets to flap over and say, Greg, buddy, we see you. And that flicker of social consequence, that little jolt of public shame, that ice-cold feeling of the group is watching and the group is judging. That turns out to be one of the most powerful forces in all of economics. It's not the toddler's fist. It's the neighbor's stare. The toddler you can outrun. Mildred, you cannot. And it works because it finally fixes the broken math we started with. Remember the curse. The fun of overusing was private, but the cost was shared. Flip on the watching and the judging, and suddenly overusing has a private cost again. Your reputation, your standing, the very real risk that nobody saves you a spot tomorrow. Greg will cheerfully drain a bath that costs him nothing. Greg will think very hard about draining a bath that costs him his friends, so the flock makes its rules. They post a little schedule. They appoint a magnificently nosy old goose named Mildred to keep watch, and Mildred attacks this assignment with a menace that should frankly concern us all, because every community has a Mildred, and every community is saved by her. And slowly, the bath comes back. The water rises. The algae retreats in shame. Greg gets his 2 clean minutes and goes home a better, soggier man. The commons is saved, not by a market, not by a king, not by a toddler, but by a bunch of ordinary birds who agreed on the rules and were willing to be deeply annoying about enforcing them. So here's the moral, and it's a sneaky big one. Anytime something is shared by everyone and guarded by no one, the fish, the roads, the air, the fridge, the bird bath, the whole entire planet, the cold logic of the commons is always, always tugging everyone toward Get mine before somebody else does. That pull is real, it is strong, and it has drained more than one civilization's birdbath. But it is not destiny. The trap can be beaten. Not with a beautiful speech, and not always with a king or a government, but with something way less glamorous and way more durable. A bunch of people who agree on the rules, keep an eye on each other, and are not the least bit afraid to say, "Greg, we see you." So next time you're tempted to take a little extra from something that belongs to everyone, just remember it's all fun and games until the water runs out. And somewhere, always, Mildred is watching. Watch the skies, share the bird bath, and give us your breadcrumbs. Subscribe.